Greetings, fellow Gorehounds, and welcome back to a Blood Splattered vlog. I'm the Horror Guru.
And I'm Count Jackula.
And today we're gonna talk about Little Bites from director Spider-1, aka Rob Zombie's brother and the frontman of Power Man 5000. This movie stars his wife, Krsy Fox, who also starred in his previous other two films, Bury the Bride and Allegoria. I thought Allegoria was like, it showed promise, but it was kind of like a rough around the edges student film, if that makes sense. Whereas Bury the Bride, I thought was a legitimately fun movie. A very low budget movie, but a legitimately fun movie. This is a completely different beast from either of those two films. This is Spider-1 and Krsy Fox doing a monster metaphor movie. Kind of like a Babadook, but the metaphor isn't as clearly apparent until the end of the movie. At least it wasn't for me. While I was watching the movie, I came up with like 5 different things the movie could be talking about. And then by the end of the movie, I was like, oh shit, no, that's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Ultimately, the movie is about a woman, a mom specifically, who has a monster in her basement that feeds on her flesh and threatens to feed on the flesh of her daughter. So she's keeping the daughter away from the home while she figures out what to do with the flesh-eating beast in the basement.
The monster is constantly ringing a dinner bell, and that means come down, feed my ass.
Feed me, Seymour.
Feed me, Seymour.
Some interesting things about this monster. It's not just a snarling beast. It's like a coherent, elegant creature that just happens to feed on flesh. It looks like it's a goddamn Nosferatu.
Yeah. It's a Nosferatu that speaks very eloquently.
Very eloquently. It's like a Doug Jones kind of thing going on. It's not Doug Jones. It's a different actor. I don't know who, but they do a really good job. And the thing is constantly like feeding into her every insecurity.
Yeah.
And her every doubt. So when I first started watching this movie, I was just like, oh, is this like a depression monster?
Yeah, like how much like the Babadook is this?
Exactly.
You know?
And then as this movie went on, more and more things started pointing it more towards addiction.
Yeah.
Because the monster makes it very clear that it first appeared when she needed him after her husband died, and she's trying to keep the daughter away from it so it doesn't infect her.
Yeah.
And the mom keeps treating her like a heroin addict who's just a terrible mother, and you got to get over this and come and get your kid. So that's what I thought for like a huge chunk of the movie. But then when it got to the final act, it became a lot more clear this movie's actually about domestic abuse.
Yeah.
The monster in and of itself is a metaphor for an abusive boyfriend. And all the things it's saying to her is the kind of gaslighty bullshit that abusive boyfriends do.
Yeah, and when you realize it's actually about domestic abuse, you start going, oh shit, yeah, that should have been obvious. Like how she's always like covering up her wounds and
yeah.
You know.
But even then, when she was doing that, I was thinking like, well, I mean, like the wounds on the arm and stuff, like those could be like track marks. You know, they could also be just like self-harm marks or anything like that. Yeah. Or they could just be visual representations of the scars of motherhood, right?
Right.
Because another element of this movie is her constantly dealing with the judgment of others is a big factor in this.
Yeah, the judgment of her own mother.
The judgment of her own mother.
Her own mother is actually played by the actress that plays the nun in The Nun.
Yes. And she is fucking great. She is really over the top.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, she's kind of like mommy dearisting it.
Yeah. She's Joan Crawfording it.
Yeah.
You know?
There's also a CPS agent that she is constantly like having to deal with. The weird thing about the movie is the movie almost like frames the CPS agent as like a bad guy. But honestly, watching the movie, and if you think about it from the CPS agent's point of view,
no, they're totally doing their job.
They're kind of in the right.
Yeah, they're like, very in the right.
From the CPS agent's point of view, the child is never home. She won't tell her where the child is.
Yeah.
Every time she tries to like enter the home or look into anything, she's extremely dodgy. And there's weird fucking noises constantly coming from the basement, leading the CPS agent over the course of the movie to kind of come to the conclusion that she's chained up her kid in the basement. And honestly, I don't know what other conclusion she could have come to.
No.
Given the information she had.
Yeah. Yeah, like, of course your mind is going to go there.
Exactly.
You know?
I'm going to spoil this part for you before we get to the spoiler section. The monster is a real monster. It's a metaphor as the viewer.
It's not like a delusion she has. It's real.
It's a metaphor for the viewer, but other people in the movie do encounter and deal with the monster over the course of the movie. So she does have to eventually confront and defeat monster by the end of it. How, we'll talk about in the spoiler section, because that's actually my favorite part of the movie. It's also a big spoiler. But overall, I like this movie, and I think it might be Spider-1's most like realized project so far.
It's his best movie. It's his best film.
And that's partially because it's also his most simple.
Yes.
All the other movies were kind of like House of a Thousand Corpses. You're kind of throwing everything at the wall to see how it all goes and see what sticks. This movie felt very honed. He had a clear idea of what he was going for.
Yeah.
And they went for it, and they pretty much nailed it.
Well, it was like he and the lead actress wrote it, didn't they?
Yeah. Krsy Fox is his wife.
Yeah.
And she wrote it with him and produced it with him, like she has basically done with the other two movies, too. Like, she's basically been very involved with his filmography, even more so than Sherry Moon Zombie is with Rob.
Oh, yeah.
Chaz Bono.
Oh, that's right.
Shows up in this movie because the movie's also co-produced by Cher.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting fact about this movie. I saw her name in the credits. I'm like, it can't be the same Cher. But then I'm sitting there going like, how many just Cher single names are there in the world?
Yeah, are there in the world? And then Chaz Bono shows up. You're like, okay, you know what?
I felt so bad for his character. We'll get into that in the spoiler section.
Yeah.
But when his character shows up, I felt like the most bad for him because he had no idea what he was getting into when this happened.
Yeah, he plays a very, very sympathetic character.
Yeah, a very, very sympathetic and kind of timid character. The kind of character that you look at, you go like, oh no, you need like round-the-clock protection, man. You are not fit to handle this world.
Yeah, you're not tough enough for this world.
You're not tough enough.
You know?
But you have a heart of gold, and there's something to that.
Yeah.
So yeah, this movie is currently available on Shudder. It is a Shudder original movie, so go check it out there if anything we've said so far has enticed you. It's a very simple movie, so I think it's about time we move on to the spoiler section.
Yeah.
So we can talk about all this stuff that reveals a little too much. So here we go.
The monster is not helpless.
No.
It's not like, I can't go out in the daylight or I'll die and you have to feed me. And no, it's just clearly, no, I'm just making your life miserable.
It's got this like tyrannical rule over her life.
Yes.
Under the constant threat that if you don't do these things, well, I'm just going to eat your daughter.
Yeah.
So she first gives of herself.
Yeah.
But eventually that starts to become problematic because there's only so many ways you can be bitten and chewed up before you start to get like infected and like problems start to arise or you start to lose muscle mass.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really, really, really screwed up.
There's some really gnarly shots in this movie where she like takes off her clothes to like take a shower or something, and there's bite marks everywhere. She's like the Freddy Krueger of bite marks.
Yeah, it's actually like the first time in the movie where I wince.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
maybe I should stop feeding it myself and try to feed it someone else. And so she actually goes out and tries to seek out a victim to feed the creature and runs into
Chaz Bono,
who's this like very timid guy who's just at a bus station minding his own business, and she comes up to him like a goddamn prostitute, propositioning him.
Yeah, who won't take no for an answer is the other thing.
But a prostitute not asking for money, but clearly like looking for something out of this.
Yes.
And it's super fucking sus. But he's also like a lonely, not very good looking guy.
Yeah.
You know, he's got his fucking like Flanders sweater on.
Yeah.
So you know.
Yeah. He's got that little mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like a short fat Flanders.
You know, and when she like actually talks to him about stuff, it's just like, oh no, just no judgment. I just want to get back home to my kitties.
Yeah. I just want to get home to my cats, okay.
You know, but then she keeps throwing herself at him, and eventually it's like, well, she's a very good looking woman.
Yeah.
So like she kind of looks a little crack addicty, but she's still a good looking woman, like if you don't look beyond the neckline where all the bites are.
Yeah.
He eventually like goes with her back to her place, and instead of sleeping with him, she tries to drug him.
Yeah, but the problem is she's not a killer.
She's not a killer. She has no idea what she's doing. She doesn't know what proportions to use in order to knock someone out. And so she ends up knocking him out and bringing him down into the basement. And the monster's just like, what is this? And she's just like, well, that's your food. And he's just like, I don't eat dead bodies.
Yeah, I don't eat the dead.
And I also don't eat a person like this. I need someone with a little defiance in their blood.
Yeah.
It's like, basically the fight is what he wants.
Yeah.
The next thing she tries to do is to try to ignore it. That doesn't go over well either.
Yeah.
And she eventually throws the CPS lady into the basement.
Yeah, who's played by Barbara Crampton.
And the monster feeds on Barbara Crampton. That is not a very sustainable thing.
No.
There's only so many ways you can have a person go missing before it starts to trace back to you.
Yeah.
Which does come back later when someone comes looking for her. So
yeah.
That's a thing. And the creature just kind of disappears. So she's like, okay, I guess it's gone. I can bring my kid back. Her kid comes back, and then the monster returns.
Yeah.
Now, ultimately, what this leads to is it leads to the daughter with the clear state of mind looking at this creature going, Mom, why don't we just kill him?
Yeah, why don't we just kill it?
It's a monster. It's not a person. No one's gonna give a shit.
Yeah, kid's just like, I think we just have to kill this thing. And
I'm just like, I like this little girl. This little girl knows what
she gets it.
What I love is, on a metaphorical level, the way they actually end up killing the creature in their confrontation with it is they end up biting and devouring the creature themselves.
Yeah.
They end up taking all the little bites and chunks back from the monster together as mother and daughter. And there's a great scene early on in the movie where she's talking to Heather Langenkamp. I can't pronounce that name.
God damn it, now I can't.
Heather
Langenkamp.
From A Nightmare on Elm Street fame. She shows up as this older lady who talks to her at a park about motherhood. And she has this great line about parenting and how from a certain age you stand behind the kid in case they fall. And eventually you reach to the point where you're not standing in front of them to protect them, and you're not standing behind them to make sure they don't fall. You're standing beside them.
Yeah.
To be with them on their journey into adulthood. And what I like is that metaphorically at the end of the movie, they're beside each other.
Yeah.
Munching on the fucking monster creature.
Yeah, one of the other implications of the scene with Heather Langenkamp is that she also has these bite marks on her.
Oh, yeah.
You know, indicating that there are other monsters like this out there.
They're out there, and other women have experienced them.
Yeah.
And that scene actually was the one that led me to believe, oh, maybe this isn't about drugs or depression. Maybe it's just about motherhood specifically, since that's what their conversation was about. But then when you get to the end of the movie, it's much clearer that it's a domestic abuse thing.
Yeah.
Though I imagine all that other stuff is factors in the movie. Not a depressing movie. I mean, it's depressing, but it kind of has a very uplifting, awesome ending.
Well, yeah. At the end of it, they come together and eat the monster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's depressing going through the journey at the beginning, but by the time you get to the end on the other side, it's actually rather uplifting.
Yeah.
Especially with that mid-credits bit where the daughter comes home from college to say hi to her mom after her mother, the entire movie, kept telling her that she's going to want nothing to do with you when she gets older.
Yeah.
And with that said, my fellow Gorehounds, where can they find you, Count Jackula?
Well, you can find me here at YouTube at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time pretty much every weekday, where I stream for at least 2 hours. Sometimes we go longer, and I'd love to see you there. What about you?
Y'all know me. I'm the Horror Guru. You can find me at the Horror Guru on various social media platforms, but these days I primarily use Blue Sky, where I rant about everything from politics to horror movies to whatever the fuck's on my mind. Sometimes I just post what I'm listening to because I feel like it. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to ring that notification bell so you're notified of my videos immediately upon their upload. And if you'd like to help out either of us more directly, be sure to check out my Patreon page and Jack's Patreon page. Even $1 a month can go a long way, but we will certainly accept more. With that said, my fellow Gorehounds, I want you to comment below. I need you to comment below. You have to comment below using the hashtag Nosferatu, because that's basically what this monster is.
True enough.
It's a Nosferatu that chews on you. Anyway, my fellow Gorehounds, peace out, and we'll catch y'all later.